Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright, so Billy Joe Saunders has given his first interview since the fight with Canelo Alvarez, where he basically quit with a broken eye socket. Now, I'm going to quote him verbatim. He's talked about the Canelo fight, he's talked about Daniel Dubois, he's also talked about quitting, and he's also talked about Chris Eubank Jr. I'm going to touch on them all, I'm going to read them all here verbatim, and I'll just give my 2 cents on everything at the end. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one. This is on Canelo on the fight night. He says, Canelo Alvarez, I got beat by the better man on the night. People can say you were up, we had you level, but the main thing is winning, and Canelo won. He's a great fighter, I take my hat off to him. On that night, the better man won. Now, I like it when fighters say that, because at the end of the day, when you say on the night the better man won, you're not necessarily saying they're the better fighter, because you're just saying on that night they got their tactics right, which is one thing I do. I think fighters don't say that enough. You know, I mean, some fighters, if they lose, it's like excuse this, that. On that night, the opponent who won was the better fighter. Doesn't mean he's better every single night. It just means on that given night, he got his tactics spot on. Billy Joe goes on to say, if I wanted to go down on one knee with a broken eye socket, I could have easily done so. I went over a minute and still carried on. Anybody who knows me personally knows that's never in me. He's referring to people who said he quit. Now, I've given my 2 cents on that on several videos. I have a lot of questions about it, and I think that those questions are fair due. I mean, Billy Joe was seen, only a week or so later driving around, where he was purported to have had the broken eye socket. I found it very head-scratching that Mark Tibbs said one thing in the interview, which was then removed from IFL, and then you've Ben Davison, who was really only there lastminute.com, and he was counteracting what Mark Tibbs was saying. And I definitely think that Mark Tibbs, I believe Mark Tibbs personally. I really do. I like Ben Davison. I think he's a good trainer, but I think he puts his nose in things a bit too much, and I think he has a friendly relationship with Billy Joe and Tyson Fury, and I think he's trying to look out for Billy Joe and trying to take some of the wrath off him. That's personally what I believe. Now, on Billy Joe's criticism of Daniel Dubois, Daniel is a young, hungry, good fighter. I like him. Daniel made his own decision. I didn't make my decision. The corner made my decision. He'll come again and be a world champion. I'll leave that one up to let me know in the comment section what you make of that comment. He's basically referring to the fact that Daniel chose to quit, is what he's saying there, but Billy Joe was saying he didn't. Let me know in the comments what you make of that. It'd be interesting to know what you guys make of that. And last but certainly not least, Chris Eubank Jr. Now, this will be a doozy. If he wants to be the A-side, let him go, win a world title, and prove he's the A-side. He's 32 years old. He's sitting there, still with his thumbs in his mouth, and not a belt to hold his trousers up. I had to laugh at that. I think Chris Eubank Jr. I'm going to see if I can bring up this quote, because I seen Eubank Jr. was quoted, I think only the other day, about Billy Joe Saunders again, and I'll just see if I can bring this up. If I can't find it in the next couple of seconds, I'll just go on. No, I can't find it there. Anyway, Billy Joe was basically saying, he's referring to Eubank Jr. saying he was the A-side if they have a rematch. And I have to agree with Billy Joe Saunders. I don't believe Eubank Jr. is the A-side. I think that going from, okay, yeah, you lost, but going from a unification against one of the best fighters in the world and the biggest cash cow in boxing to fight Marcus Morrison's undercard, or not Marcus Morrison, to fight Marcus Morrison on a Derek Chisora undercard. Yeah. And, Eubank, one quote he said was, I have a belt. He's got, I don't think he has anything anymore, but he had an interim WBA title at 160. And if he was to go to 168, which I would imagine this is where Billy Joe would want to fight, he hasn't got a belt, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, unless the IBO just haven't stripped it. Nevertheless, Billy Joe is right there when he says that, Eubank can't really say he's the A-side, because I think that Billy Joe going into that fight would be the A-side personally. You know, if they did do that rematch, Billy Joe he's accomplished more. Eubank Jr. may be every bit as successful in terms of financially, but I think Billy Joe, just stemming from where he's been in his last few fights, I mean, just look at where they've been their last few fights, right? You can say what you want about Billy Joe winning that WBO title at 168. He got an easy touch. Yeah, he did get an easy touch. But still, he wanted to fight with Canelo. He got the fight with Canelo. He was very competitive in the fight with Canelo. Eubank Jr., after he lost to George Groves, he beat James DeGale, went back down to middleweight. And yeah, good win over Korobov, but literally he's been in the wilderness since then. Came back, had that fight against Marcus Morrison, now he's fighting Sven Elber. So it's very different. Look, that's what Billy Joe has to say on everything. Again, I'll just touch on what he said there. I think that there's a lot of eyebrows to be raised about the whole, you know, was it the corner who pulled Billy Joe out? Was it Billy Joe himself? I just find it very dubious still to this day that you had interviews being removed, you know. Put it like this, IFL, when Daniel Dubois quit against Joe Joyce, they were interviewing Joe Joyce's mother. And when Cook was criticised for that, well, I'm a journalist, that's what I'm supposed to do. But when people asked him about Billy Joe, and they said, why are you taking videos down? And why aren't you interviewing people like Eubank Jr.? Well, I'm not a journalist. Like, that to me is just, if you're going to have one rule for one, have it for everyone. If you're going to go and look for views by interviewing a guy's mother who you insulted, why aren't you doing, now obviously I'm not, Billy Joe didn't insult anyone's mother, but why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you giving him the same level of treatment? Just a question. In terms of everything else, like, I'd be surprised if we see Billy Joe back in the ring anytime soon. I really would. I think we've seen the end of Billy Joe now, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get a retirement announcement at some stage. Because I just think that Billy Joe, I think that his best days were in 2017 when he was active, and he didn't push on from that. And I think now at this stage, the hunger for fighting, I don't think the hunger for fighting is necessarily there anymore with Billy Joe. I think that he's done everything he's wanted to do. He's won world titles, he's got big fights, or he's got a big fight, and he's made a lot of money. And Billy Joe, discipline has always been something that he's lacked in the ring. You know, he's always fluctuated in between fights. And I just get the impression that he's gone. You know, I get the impression that he's going to be leaving the sport of boxing sooner rather than later. You know, that's just what I think. In terms of what he had to say there, again, like, where do I even start? Like, I've already kind of gone over what I said about, you know, the corner, him saying it was the corner, and me talking about the Mark Tips thing. Look, I've done so many videos on that, I'm just sick of talking about it, but there's a lot of eyebrows to be raised about that. But I just found it interesting, him touching on, you know, subjects like that, and, you know, really, because he's barely done any interviews, he's barely said anything, other than, I think, that video of him driving his car, and a couple of tweets here and there about Eubank Jr. He's really been fairly silent since that Canelo loss, and that was in May. We're now in the middle of September, so we've had a good 4 months. It's been a while. So that's my thoughts on that. I want to know more so about what the guys in the comment section think. What do you think about Billy Joe's comment on Daniel Dubois? What do you think? Do you think that, like me, Billy Joe is basically a retirement is imminent? I believe anyway. I just don't see him sticking around unless him and Eubank Jr. can agree something and it's mega money. I just can't see him sticking around. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed me rambling, because I think I rambled a bit in this. But look, you get a video. There you go. You get 2 videos today, actually. So there you go. You might even get a third one tonight if any news breaks. But for now, I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, if you could, help your boy out. Smash the like button. Help get this channel moving up so I can do more things. You know, I want to get this channel. I love to get, well, once I will get back to London at some stage in the next few weeks. But once I get this channel to a certain point, I'd love to do more things. So if you could, smash the like button. It helps your boy out. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.